The Moonlight Sonata murder case. In 1995, renowned detective Mori Kagoro gets a mysterious letter from a man named Ezo Keiji. It invites him to look into a case on Moon Shadow Island during the next full moon. The letter reads, "The shadows will begin to vanish." Upon arriving on the island, they uncover a chilling and disturbing mystery. Ezo Keiji was a globally respected musician and native of the island. He died 12 years ago during a full moon, after murdering his family and setting their home ablaze, playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata endlessly as he perished. Kagoro, Conan, and Ran head to Moon Shadow Island to investigate the puzzling invitation. They learn from Dr. Narumi, who moved from Tokyo to open a clinic, that the mayoral election is approaching, with 3 candidates running. At the late mayor's memorial, they come across a cursed piano. Both Ezo Keiji and the former mayor had played it prior to their deaths. During the ceremony, candidate Hideo Kawashima excuses himself to the restroom and vanishes. Soon after, Beethoven's sonata begins playing from the piano room. They rush in and find his lifeless body. He was drowned. Conan deduces that the killer copied the past 2 deaths. He realizes the murderer must still be present. With politics as the motive, suspicion falls on the other mayoral candidates. Mr. Drugs screams and flees when he sees the piano sheet music. The group senses the murders aren't over. They remain in the piano room with the body until police arrive. Dr. Narumi recounts how the former mayor died of a heart attack. Terrified, Inspector Megareya arrives and begins his questioning. While interrogations are ongoing, the piano's second movement plays from the loudspeakers. Tatsuji Kurowa, another candidate, is found dead, stabbed in the broadcast room. Conan is frustrated. They were too late again. A bloody musical score lies on the floor. Conan begins decoding it. "You know you're next." The first message reads. The second, "The grudge of hellfire, is settled." The second note links back to Ezo Keiji, who burned with his family. A policeman explains that 12 years ago, everything was lost to flames, except the music sheet secured in Ezo's fireproof safe. They search the community center's storage room for the safe's key. Conan questions the policeman to learn more about those involved. Only the third movement of the Moonlight Sonata remains. Now that 2 opponents are dead, Mezo Toshimizu is set to win the mayoral race. As Conan tries to reach the storage room, he hears a noise in the piano room. He follows someone, but they break a window and escape. He finds an unconscious man, Murder Sawa. When the police enter the storage room, they find Mr. Drugs, Ken Nishimoto, dead, with music sheets nearby. Conan decodes it as a fake suicide note. Nishimoto is blamed for the killings. A tape plays the sonata's third movement, set to run for 30 minutes. Conan explains the setup needed an extra step. It couldn't have been suicide. He was murdered. The killer forgot to reset a step in their haste. A piano tuner is found in Murder Sawa's pocket, and a hidden compartment beneath the piano is discovered. Conan sees white powder on the floor. What could it be? The pieces begin to click. Only the final puzzle remains. Conan identifies the killer by analyzing Ezo Keiji's music. Why Kawashima was moved after drowning. Why music sheets were left behind. What the coded blood message meant. And Kurowa's hidden clue. Conan knocks Kagoro out and reveals the truth. Kozawaki Hirata knocked out Murder Sawa in the piano room. He'd used the space to deal drugs with Kawashima, hiding them inside the piano. He struck Murder Sawa, who'd caught him messing with the piano. But Hirata isn't the killer. The second murder used a trick to mislead them. By the time they reached the scene, the blood had dried. A reverse key on the broadcast panel altered the time. The clue was erased, but forensic photos preserved it. Only one person besides police could alter the body's time of death. The medical examiner. And the only doctor present is you, Dr. Narumi. In the first murder, you moved the body so only the island's doctor, you would be called to examine the next one, enabling your trick. The motive for all 3 killings dates back to 12 years ago, when Ezo Keiji and his family died in flames. The truth: Kawashima, Kurowa, Nishimoto and Kemiyama, the old mayor, murdered them. They used Ezo's international status to smuggle drugs, stashing them in the piano's secret compartment. When Ezo wanted out, they silenced him. A music sheet from his fireproof safe exposes everything. He wrote a message to his son Seiji on it, shortly before dying. Seiji was in a Tokyo hospital at the time. Dr. Narumi is really Ezo Keiji's son. After this revelation, they find Seiji is missing. Conan suspects he went to the piano room. There Seiji sets fire to the room and plays the piano. Conan finds him and gives him a final message from his father. Seiji, at least you can live a decent life. Seiji tells Conan what drove him to murder the three. He had returned to the island for answers. After learning the truth from the old mayor, he sought revenge. The mayor died of a heart attack. Seiji honored his father by playing the Moonlight Sonata and avenging him. Conan tries to stop him from burning with the piano. He pleads with Seiji, telling him that revenge has made him no different from the murderers he condemned. Seiji refuses. He throws Conan out of the building to save him. He plays a final piano piece, disordered, but filled with gratitude for Conan. By morning the fire is out. Conan discovers that Seiji was the one who sent the letter, asking them to stop him. This tragic tale reminds us, revenge and greed never bring peace. Greed fuels drug rings. It leads to lies, murder, and the ruin of lives. It blinds people to what really matters. Seiji's revenge brought only sorrow and more death. Revenge is a cycle, destructive, endless, and bitter for all involved. Our choices matter. We must strive to do what's right, even if it's not easy. In the end, choose kindness and forgiveness, not hatred and vengeance. The suspicious phone murder case. Ran sends a message to Shinichi's phone, only to find that Conan's phone also receives her message at the same time. This makes her suspicious that Conan might be screening Shinichi's messages for him. If Shinichi and Conan are in contact, that explains Conan's clever deductions. Meanwhile, a woman named Tomoko Kariya hires Kogoro to help locate her missing cell phone, which contains sensitive messages about an affair she's been having. Every time she tries to call her phone, someone picks up but immediately hangs up. She suspects that her phone may have been taken by either her father-in-law, brother-in-law, or her husband. After Kogoro questions the three men, Tomoko suddenly appears with her phone, claiming she found it herself. She thanked Kogoro for his time and promised to send the fee to his bank. After a while, as Conan drops by Professor Agasa's house to tell him about Ran's growing suspicion that Conan is actually Shinichi, he sees a news report announcing that Tomoko was found dead in her car, stabbed and bludgeoned to death. Kogoro, Ran, and Conan return to the Korea residence with the police to begin an investigation. The three men each claim to have an airtight alibi. The father, Daisako, was heard speaking behind a paper sliding door. The brother-in-law's shadow was seen behind a paper door screen, and the husband Shigehida's pipe smoke was smelled. After eliminating the man who was having an affair with Tomoko, the investigation leads to suspicions of a connection to a murder 12 years ago. That case involved Eisuke Kariya, the third son of the family, who vanished after becoming the prime suspect in the stabbing of his fiancée, Matoka Aida. Although the man Tomoko was having an affair with has a solid alibi, strange occurrences around the house begin to pile up. One of Eisuke's old friends contacted Tomoko about receiving strange phone calls from her cell phone. With Conan's help, the police deduce that the person who took the phone must have had plenty of uninterrupted time needed to crack the password. This points to someone isolated or hidden away. While Conan contemplates this, Ran lies in wait, hoping to catch Conan calling Shinichi so she can intercept the call and speak to him directly. As she watches him, she begins to reflect on Conan's mannerisms and personality, growing even more convinced that Conan is Shinichi. Suddenly, another prank call and doorbell ring disrupt the moment. The maids tell the police that 20 years ago, Eisuke had called home asking to let Matoka stay over after she missed her train. Daisako, the father, started screaming at Matoka through the phone, accusing her of cheating. No one knew how he found out about her affair. The maids explain that Daisako has always had a strong hatred for infidelity because his ex-wife had cheated on him, which led to their divorce. They also mention that Sugataka gets particularly upset by the prank calls and doorbell rings, even though there are no traces of these calls in the phone log, something that catches Conan's attention. Conan then asks Ran if she sent a message earlier. Ran, still in detective mode herself, replies that she did. Conan follows up by asking if she checked the recipient number before sending. Ran says no, she just resent the message she had already sent that morning. But when she takes out her phone to verify, she discovers that she accidentally sent the message to an entirely different address. Conan realizes that this mistake is how Tomoko had managed to locate her phone before, by sending multiple messages and using the ringtone to pinpoint its location. Conan points out that whoever had the phone was clearly unfamiliar with how to operate it. Since cell phones only became widely used within the past decade, the person who had taken Tomoko's phone must be Ace K, who has been hiding from society for 12 years. Conan concludes that one of the three men must be secretly hiding Ace K within the house. Thanks to Conan's deductions, Kogoro, Inspector Megara, and Ran begin to piece the case together. The person who took Tomoko's cell phone is Ace K Korea, the third son who vanished after Motoka's murder 12 years ago. Because he's been in hiding for over a decade, he's unfamiliar with basic cell phone functions and couldn't turn off the phone or silence the ringtone. If one of the three men had been hiding Ace K within the house, they could have had Ace K create an alibi for them while they left to commit the murder of Tomoko by the Temuzu River. First, Daisako, the father, is removed from the suspect list. His alibi is based on the smell of curry. However, the maids only changed the dinner menu from stew to curry 10 minutes before serving it. Since it takes at least 30 minutes to get to the murder site and commit the crime, it would have been impossible for Daisako to record a curry-specific alibi in advance. Next, Sugataka is considered unlikely to be the killer. He took curry into his room long after the estimated time of death. If he had gone out to commit the murder and wanted to maintain his alibi, he could have had Ace K bring the food into the room earlier, or done it himself after returning. If he had left it outside, he would have become an obvious suspect. That leaves Shigehida as the only plausible suspect. The team confronts Shigehida with their theory that he's been secretly hiding Ace K in the house. Evidence begins to stack up. Shigehida's novels are oddly old-fashioned, none of the characters use cell phones, and bleached-haired characters, like Motoka, are rare and usually portrayed negatively. This suggests that Ace K, who lacks familiarity with modern technology, was the one actually writing the novels. Additionally, if Ace K was hiding in the attic, he would have overheard private conversations between Tomoko and her husband, and possibly included details from those talks in the manuscripts. At that moment, Ace K reveals himself. He confesses to stabbing his fiancée 12 years ago, after learning of her affair, but denies bludgeoning her to death. This contradiction leads the group to realize that it was Shigehida who actually delivered the fatal blow. The method used to kill Tomoko mirrored the earlier murder, stabbing and then bludgeoning, meaning Shigehida had replicated the crime to frame Ace K. His motive: he was the one Motoka had an affair with, and Daisaku had discovered the relationship. To further prove his guilt, Ran explains how Tomoko managed to find her cell phone. She repeatedly sent herself messages using Ran's phone and tracked it down by listening for the ringtone. Tomoko had cleverly set her phone's ringtone for messages to sound like the house's doorbell and calls to mimic the landline, making it easier to cover up her secret communications. Since the group now hears the same ringtone in Shigehida's room, it proves that he was hiding both the cell phone and the murder weapon there. Shigehida hadn't destroyed the phone because he wanted to make sure Tomoko hadn't leaked any incriminating information to others. Shigehida confesses to killing Tomoko because she had blackmailed him, demanding 10 million yen to keep quiet about two things: that he had passed off Ace K's writing as his own, and that he had been the one to murder Motoka 12 years ago. As for the older murder, he says he didn't go there intending to kill her. He had gone to check on Motoka after hearing Ace K had stabbed her, planning to take her to the hospital. But when Motoka mocked him, revealed she had only used the brothers for money, and threatened to ruin his life, he lost control and beat her to death. He admits that he considered killing Ace K to cover up his crime, but didn't go through with it because he genuinely loved reading Ace K's writing, and was always eager for the next chapter. That night, Conan accidentally drops his phone in the car, and Ran quickly snatches it to check whether the message she sent to Shinichi is on it. However, she finds the phone is locked with a 4-digit passcode. She remembers a time when Shinichi deduced a criminal's fake license plate based on the absence of the hiragana characters, she and he, which are illegal to use. Inspired by this memory, Ran guesses the password to be 4869, the numeric spelling of Sherlock, and successfully unlocks the phone. She finds that the message she sent earlier was deleted. Feeling suspicious, she resends the message, only for her phone to ring moments later. It's Shinichi calling, but in reality, it's just a pre-recorded message, created by Conan, in case Ran got too close to discovering his secret. Conan then walks in, casually asks for his phone back, and retreats to his room. There, it's revealed that the call was indeed a fake recording designed to throw Ran off the trail. Still, recognizing that he can't keep lying to her forever, Conan gives Ran his real phone number, and silently accepts whatever consequences may come with her knowing it. Conan and Ran are invited by Sonoko to her family's mountain villa in Gunma Prefecture, to see the autumn leaves and meet up with Sonoko's sister Ayako, and some old friends of hers. At first they get lost thanks to Ran's lack of direction sense, but they find their way and see themselves in front of a bridge. On the way to the front, they see a strange bandaged man in a dark cloak crossing the bridge. When they see him, he turns around, shocking them with his face and eye contact, as he quickly makes a retreat around the side of the house. Ran and Conan are greeted by Sonoko herself, who is a bit disappointed, since with a kid around, she won't be able to flirt a lot. Ran asks Sonoko about the bandaged guy, but Sonoko brushes her off, saying he might be a bored local, hoping to prank people. Everything seems fine as Ran tries to find her room, accidentally walking in on the boys of the house, who are either relaxing or changing clothes, including seeing at least one of them fully nude. Conan is greatly embarrassed as he witnesses this. When everyone is ready, they gather at the dining room, and Sonoko introduces them as members of their university's film club. The handsome Ota was the main star, the tall Sumiya was the cameraman, and SFX man, the pudgy Takahashi was the handyman. The gentle Ayako was the makeup/costume artist, and the beautiful Chikako was the scriptwriter. Chikako also happens to have netted herself a great deal as a professional writer, after her first script was a total knockout some time ago. However, Ayako mentions someone named Atsuko, which makes Chikako very angry, and then leaves for a walk to calm down. It begins to rain, and Chikako hasn't returned. Ran and Sonoko chat about the handsome Ota, and Sonoko seems smitten with him, but he flirts with Ran instead, making both Sonoko and Conan angry and jealous. They go out for a walk in the rain, with both Conan and Sonoko following them, but a huge thunderstorm booms, and Ran runs away in terror when she's trying to get back to the villa. Ran is attacked by the mysterious man, who corners her and attacks with an axe. Ran is so terrified that she can barely fight back, but the man leaves as soon as Conan and Sonoko arrive. The three make their way back to the mansion and tell the others, Chikako included, about the attack on Ran. They aren't very convinced, and Chikako angers Sumiya by revealing he's scared of thunder, but Takahashi says he did see a man in a black cape around. Sumiya and Ota also saw him before, and for worse, it turns out that not only are the phones down, but the bridge has also been cut. Therefore, they're all stuck at the villa. Takahashi is about to panic, and the others are also uneasy, but the more practical, Chikako scolds them severely for giving in to what this bandaged man wants, and says they'll have to wait. However, when she finds a mysterious letter under her doorstep, she's terrified and decides not to have dinner with the group. Before dinner, Ayako explains that the group disbanded after the death of their friend Atsuko, who had hanged herself in their club room. She then asks Conan not to talk about it, since she planned the reunion to get everyone back together. When Takahashi is done fixing the rooftop, he gets ready to join them for a lavish dinner prepared by Ayako and Ran. But all of a sudden, he's terrified and says he's seen someone at the window. Said someone is the bandaged man, and he has kidnapped Chikako and is taking her into the woods. Sumiya covers Chikako's remains with his jacket, and the group returns to the villa. Ayako blames herself for everything since she organized the meeting, but Sumiya says it's only the bandaged man's fault. Everyone is very shaken, and they decide that it's best to go to bed for the night. After checking on every window and door for safety, they'll try finding their way to the nearest village in the morning. Conan, Sonoko and Ran find Chikako's slippers near the house's back door, and Conan thinks she willingly left to meet up with someone in secret. Ran and Conan are sharing a room, and Ran is so scared of how she was targeted that she asks Conan if they can share a bed too. He tries to focus on the current info, but is distracted by how close Ran is to him. The bandaged man strikes again, this time trying to kill Ran in her sleep. Since Ran is an extremely heavy sleeper, Conan first kicks her out of the way, and then grabs his bow tie to amplify the volume of his voice, and yell at her to wake up. Ran opens her eyes, and she freezes up as Conan tries to tackle the guy to the ground. Then the man escapes through the window, but not before tossing Conan away, and making him twist his ankle. The bandaged man quickly makes a hasty retreat, leaving Conan to wonder why he is targeting Ran, and why, if the guy came from the outside, there are no mud or water stains on the floor. Everyone decides to stay up for the night, and keep together to throw off the murderous man in bandages. Conan sees that Ayako has a choker that belonged to the dead Chikako. She says she found it a short while ago, but Conan recalls that she had it on when she was abducted. This means that yes, the bandaged man is someone in the group. The group stays in the dining room, and Ota tries to comfort Ran by hitting on her again, much to Conan's displeasure. He mentions how he was the closest to the man, and tried to grab him, saying he was thin enough for him to wrap his arms around his waist. Conan realizes that Samir accidentally left his camera on, so there's a video of the window incident, and Chikako's abduction. He sees that Chikako was wearing her choker when abducted, but that poses doubts about how fast she was taken away from the house. None of the three men, the only ones with enough physical strength, could have been fast enough to carry a woman of normal weight around that fast. Also, the three men were inside the building when Chikako was kidnapped. Ayako, the last one to see Chikako alive, tells Conan that she saw her holding a letter and looking disturbed. This confirms Conan's suspicions about a secret meeting between Chikako and her eventual murderer. He wonders why Ran is a target now, however, and asks her if she remembers seeing something special when she got into the guy's rooms. The lights go off, thanks to the thunderstorm. Ayako, Ran and Conan go for candles, and Ran is attacked again, but this time she manages to react and breaks the man's axe with a kick. The lights return, and one of the windows is all broken. Conan thinks it was done from the inside to fool everyone into thinking the man used it to get into the house, when he's actually among the group. Additionally, he sees some odd signals in the veranda, and that tells him who the bandaged man is. As Ran and Sonoko are talking, Conan decides to put Ran to sleep, and use her to resolve the case, but the tranquilizer needle hits Sonoko instead. So, using Sonoko's persona to express his thoughts, Conan unravels the whole mystery of the murder and attempted murder. Conan begins by telling everyone that the killer is not from the outside, since Ran and his room was too clean for a space that was supposedly broken into from the outside during a rainy night. The killer actually came from Chikako's now empty room barefoot, went out on the balcony, cut a hole in the window right next to the lock, a detail only insiders knew about, to enter silently and attack Ran, as well as going back into Chikako's room when she screamed, and after Conan repelled him and changed into their normal clothes inside the room before joining the group. Conan's Sonoko continues by saying that Chikako's kidnapping wasn't such, but a trick made with a puppet, a cape, 2 wires, and the already dead Chikako's severed head. A wire was strung over one of the rails, and both of them were tied above the window. When the killer cut them off, the fake killer slid over and passed in front of the window, which is what the group saw, then was hauled back by the actual murderer. Only one person could have done that: Ryoichi Takahashi, who was repairing the roof, and as a former stagehand, is the only one with enough skills to do so. Takahashi retorts that he was with the group the whole time, and adds that he couldn't have carried Chikako's body with him. Conan Sonoko retorts that maybe he couldn't have carried the whole corpse, but could do that with only her head. He tries to retort with how the bandaged man isn't exactly fat like he is, but can't finish the sentence, because Conan Sonoko adds that Takahashi is not as fat as he looks, and how he used padding as well as baggy clothes. So he discarded the padding, killed Chikako, and dismembered her body, then carried her head under his baggy clothes, and left it next to her mutilated torso to find, and put the padding back to keep on pretending that he's overweight. Conan Sonoko then says this is why Takahashi, as the bandaged man, attacked Ran Mori, because she had seen him half naked, when she barged into his room, and thus saw how he wasn't fat, and he tried to kill her before she could recall it, and throw his entire plan off. Since this happened before he could kill his target, Takahashi also cut the phone lines and the ropes to the bridge, then wrote the letter that led Chikako to meet up with him so he would kill her and dismember her corpse. Most likely a letter mentioning Atsuko, their friend, who committed suicide. Takahashi admits his guilt and says that he did it for his beloved Atsuko. He explains that he always suspected there was something odd in how Atsuko, a very cheerful girl who had told him about a script of hers that she thought of as a masterpiece, suddenly fell into an eventual suicidal depression around the time Chikako's script was a hit. He went to see the movie based on it and realized that Chikako had stolen Atsuko's treasure and made it pass as hers, winning prizes and fame for Atsuko's work. The day before Chikako got the proper award, Atsuko met up with Takahashi and told him the truth, sobbing about how no one would believe her if she tried to prove she was the author of Chikako's story. The day afterwards, Atsuko committed suicide in the club room, and Takahashi swore revenge on Chikako, since she caused the ruin and death of the girl he loved. He consummated this by writing the letter, where he threatened Chikako to reveal the truth if she didn't meet up with him, and then decapitated Chikako when she came to find him. Takahashi opens his baggy sweater and shirt, dropping his bandaged man's costume on the floor as well as a knife, which he used to commit suicide. Sumiya tried to talk to him out of this, but Takahashi was desperately swinging his knife around and threatening the others to stay away. Conan tells him to stop screwing around because he never was as brave as he claimed to be, since he attacked an innocent person like Ran just to cover his tracks. Realizing his mistake, Takahashi falls to the ground in sorrow and regrets what he has done as the sun rushes them of the horrors of that cold night. Conan, however, comments that the real killer is still on the loose, one who corrupts the hearts and minds of the innocent, the killer called Revenge. A few weeks after the case, Ran, Sunoko and Conan are shown walking home from school, talking about the case. Sunoko mentions how her sister stayed in bed for almost a week because of the whole ordeal. However, when Ran mentions how Sunoko solved the case, Conan panics and scurries away, but not before overhearing Sunoko accepting the credit for resolving the mystery. The mysterious mansion of a band of thieves case. The Mori Detective Agency receives a letter from a certain Misao Nakamura. The letter invites him to investigate the strange occurrences at their house, a house they inherited from their grandfather. Soon after I moved here, strange things began happening. Recently, I feel as if someone is watching me. I'm something of a mystery writer, so I've tried to figure this out on my own. But I haven't lived here long, and I'm not very familiar with this house. Rather than puzzle over this alone, I thought I could use some help. That's why I'm writing to you. Thinking back, something my grandfather said on his deathbed strikes me as peculiar. He said the house I'm giving you is special. If you're interested, please come by 10:30 in the morning. Kogoro is excited as he drives together with Conan and Ran on his way to Misao's house, thinking that she's a talented young lady. Ran said Misao can be a girl or guy. Kogoro immediately replying that he won't waste his Sunday if he thought that. Conan also says that why didn't he call to confirm first, but Kogoro wants to surprise Misao-chan. Conan eggs Kogoro on since the handwriting is neat on the letter, that maybe it's a woman, but Conan actually saw lipstick on the back of the stamp. They arrive at the remote house, and is welcomed by a pudgy middle-aged man. The life leaves from Kogoro's face. Conan immediately asked if he was the one to write the letter. He says that it was my younger, Kogoro intervenes. Younger sister, he says no, my brother Misao. Kogoro's face shows visible disappointment. Misao is the one that inherited the mansion, but invited his brother to move in as well. Misao's arm is wrapped up after a little accident moving a shelf, and they go inside the house. Meanwhile, Conan notices something weird at the front porch. On one of the pillars has a tiger statue, and on the other side there's nothing, and instead there are some odd holes. They go inside and see the massive collections of knickknacks featuring different animals, and lots of clocks, since the previous owner of the house is a clockmaker known for his works that lasts a lifetime. Kogoro noticed that all the digital clocks are scratched up. They also mention that the previous owner was an analog clockmaker. He just collected the digital ones for fun. Some clocks are broken where there should be an animal. Ran found a frame with a photo of Monjiro, the previous owner, together with his granddaughter on a golf course. They also found his club bag, which is named Demon. The older brother says it was named Demon because he couldn't break 100 points. Hence the nickname, as they wanted to poke fun at the old man. Ran interjects that there was a crime ring that called themselves Demon. They stole from corrupt corporations and greedy executives. That's not right. It's Goblin, not Demon. Misao drops the tea tray that he was serving. Conan noticed that where there should be an animal in the cup handle, it was erased deliberately, which is weird. If it breaks, they should have been glued back and not filed clean. Misao finally shows Kogoro the strange occurrences, and they go to the study. Misao had a bit of problem opening the door to the study, which his older brother helped on. Did you forget? The lower right side of the door, you have to kick it for it to open, says the older brother. Kogoro comments that all the curtains are closed, even though it's so hot in the room. Misao says that they closed it because they felt being watched. Conan noticed a strangely perfect hole in the wall. Misao shows Kogoro the Kogoro clock. He says that at certain times it makes noise. Of course it does. That's what Kogoro clocks do, says Kogoro. But it does it at odd times, like 10:50, and at the little window something strange pops out. They wait until 10:50, but it did not do anything. That's odd. It did it last time, says Misao, which is strange since the clocks made by Monjiro is famous for never breaking. A creepy harmony of alarms startled everyone at exactly 11 a.m. All the clocks in the house simultaneously alarmed, and the VCR starts recording. Everyone is startled and creeped out at what's happening. 1 minute later, and all the alarms have stopped. They notice that only the digital clocks alarmed, and not the analog ones. From an unknown location, shows a creepy dark silhouette of a person. Ran noticed a noise coming from the ceiling of the study. Misao says that there's a big cat in the attic that they can't get rid of. They check the VCR that maybe there's a recording at this specific moment, but the VCR is not even connected to the antenna. Nothing to record. Conan noticed the scratch in the VCR digital clock. It's the same as the digital clocks. 110. It's a code. Conan says Kogoro deduces that 110 is the emergency number in Japan, and it may refer to the police, and which he noticed a digital clock with a dog. Gather all the clocks with a dog, and we'll solve the mystery, says Kogoro. After gathering all the clocks with dogs, no clue was found. Conan wanders around the house, and ended up to the entrance of the attic where he noticed a hole in the door. He peeks through the hole, and was surprised a human eye also peeked through the hole, meeting eye to eye with Conan in such a short distance. The older brother suddenly shows up behind Conan and says that there's nothing in the attic except for the big cat. But Conan knows what he saw. It's a human eye. Conan rummages through the study again to find more clues. He found a file named Goblin. It compiled all the articles involving the crime ring. It's been 10 years since they were active, and the leader was called Demon. Conan found another strange thing. A mirror is fixed onto the table and won't budge. This mirror is opposite to the perfect hole in the wall. That hole is directly below the cuckoo clock. A sudden noise blurs out, startling Conan, and made Ran scream. It was the cuckoo clock, but instead of a dove, it was 3 goblins. The goblins each have a letter written in their head, the letter L, letter N, and letter R. Misao adds that this is the thing he saw the other day, but the time is different. This time, it's 1:10 p.m. The older brother whispers to Misao about something about those goblin figures. Conan slowly tries to piece together the mystery. Why do all the digital clocks and VCR go off at 11 a.m.? What's the meaning of the scratches on the clocks? And then there's the cuckoo clock that went off at 1:10 p.m. What's the significance of the 3 goblins that popped out of the clock? What about the letters on their head? What's the key to unlocking these puzzles? That's right. You know how we've been looking at all the animals in the house? Well, I've been thinking that something's missing. It's lions. There are no lions in the house. Comments Ran. There are 2 big lions at the entrance. He wouldn't leave out the lion, king of the beasts, says Kogoro. Hearing the word king sparked something in Conan. Conan suddenly goes to the entrance of the house and finally solved the mystery. Conan says to Ran that maybe at night they would finally figure it out. Kogoro blurts out 11, symbolizes stripes, and that they have to look at all the zebras, but Misao says that tigers also have stripes. Conan innocently asks who's stronger, a tiger or a zebra? Ran says the tiger is stronger. So, are tigers the strongest animal of all? Asks Conan. The older brother says no, lions are the strongest. I see, lions, king of 60. No, the old saying goes king of 100 beasts, says Kogoro. Kogoro finally gets the hint. The 110 stands for the number 110, and the last 0 is O, the Japanese word for king. It must mean the king of the beasts, lions. The scratch on all the digital clocks was to indicate a break on 110, and O, Monjiro must have decided the code to refer to the lion. That's why there are no other lions in the house. They were broken off or removed altogether. The only lions are at the entrance. They then inspect the 2 lions attached at the main doors, but they can't figure out what it means. They go back to the 3 goblins at the cuckoo clock. What do those mean? Lil, N, and R. Japanese has different ways of saying numbers. 1 and 10 could be Ito. Put it all together. L plus Ito becomes Lito, N becomes Nito, and R becomes Rito, which roughly translate to light and night and right. So, at night, we should shine some light onto the lion, on the right. Conan shows them the slight opening from the inside that opens for them to shine a light through the lion. They close the door with the light shining through, and finds that the light bounces through multiple mirrors from outside the house. It goes through the holes in the pillar, with a mirror inside. They follow the light, and it goes through the perfect hole in the wall, into the study. From the outside it bounces to the fixed mirror on the desk, and into the cuckoo clock. After entering the study, they then find a dove that came out of the clock with a wristwatch. Grandfather must have meant it as a present for me, says Misao. Kogoro is astonished at the number of precious jewels inside the wristwatch. Conan starts revealing everything he deduced. Of course it does, says Conan. After all, it's the hidden treasure of Demon, the leader of the goblin crime ring. The demons in the cuckoo clock were exactly like the little statue goblin used to leave at the crime scenes. And there was that gold bag with Demon embroidered on it. Plus, I don't think either of these guys is the Misao who sent the letter to you. Remember what the letter said. I haven't lived here long, and I'm not very familiar with the house. It also said Misao was alone, but these guys knew how to open the old door that sticks, and they said they'd been living here together. The cuckoo clock goes off at 1:10 p.m. They thought it happened at 10:50 a.m. These guys never saw the clock go off from inside the house. They peeked through the hole in the wall and saw the clock's reflection in the mirror. When the real Misao mentioned that she thought she was being watched, she was talking about these guys. Misao is a woman. Look at the stamp on this letter. There's a trace of lipstick on it. Then that means these two are. Misao suddenly fires a gun at Kogoro. He missed, and they reveal that they are old members of Goblin. They came to the house to get the treasure that their boss was hoarding. After the gang disbanded, he divided the loot between us, but kept the most valuable jewels for himself. After the boss finally kicked it, we came to search the place. It used to be our hideout, but someone was already here. The real Misao, right? You locked her in the attic, says Conan. Yeah, she made a commotion when we threw her in there. She kept warning us that some genius detective was on his way to save her, which was great news for us. You helped us figure out the code that the boss left. Now hand over the watch. Be nice and we'll let you live. Kogoro threw the watch to the side, while distracted. Kogoro took the gunner down with Conan's help. Ran comes in after hearing the gunshot. The other member grabs Ran. Don't make a move or I'll break your daughter's neck, says the goblin member. Stupid, says Conan. Ran easily outmaneuvers him, elbowed his stomach, and unleashed a heel drop on the back of his head. He instantly fainted. That was scary, says Ran. Conan and Kogoro were speechless. They even expected it as soon as Ran was grabbed. The local police responded promptly to the call. The 2 thieves were taken to the hospital, still unconscious. The real Misao was rescued safely from the attic. Just as suspected by Conan, She's the girl in the photo next to Monjiro. Kogoro gave the bejeweled watch to Misao. It's stolen merchandise. I can't keep it. And besides, grandfather has already given me something much more valuable. All the mysteries left behind in this mansion. This is the greatest gift a mystery writer could hope for. I'm sure there are more things that will come to light, says Misao. Maybe the watch wasn't specifically meant for me anyways. You know, finders keepers, declares Misao, and I'm the one who found it, says Kogoro. Oh Dad, claims Ran with a worried face. You know that's not right, old man, and besides, I'm sure Monjiro made that for Misao. Look at the hands on the watch. They're set at 330, 330, which can be read as Misao, the Night Baron murder case. At a beach in Izu, Conan mentally grumbles about being stuck outside of Tokyo when he should be looking for gin and vodka, until Ran, with her voluptuous figure, convinces him to come swimming with her. However, when they check into their hotel, the reservations Agaza turned over to them has a catch. It's only half paid for. Agaza signed up for a mystery tour. If Conan can figure out who of the 10 guests in the tour is the sponsor, the other half of the reservation will be covered, and he will also receive a certain computer program. Before Conan can remember what Agaza said was the sponsor's name, Kogoro is asked by another hotel patron if he is the Night Baron, a character from Yusaku Kudo's novels. Kogoro reacts with confusion, and the man records the reaction as part of his dataset for determining who is the Night Baron, the alias of the tour sponsor. The man is Shiro Kono, a bank employee. His methods are derided by Tokyo Ibara, a slightly drunk computer programmer, who is another participant. Genichiro Konoshiro, a computer company CEO, defends the method, backed by his lady butler, Shizu Hayashi. He defends his own slow response to Kono's question as having poor eyesight and didn't know the question was at him. Kono is satisfied with his data, but Hideko Konijo, another computer company CEO, turns his question back on himself. Kogoro is still confused by the conversation and who the Night Baron is. Though Ran explains, Kogoro remains uninterested and returns to the hotel room. Conan realizes that 2 people from the group of 10 are missing. At the same time, Ibara tries to grope and flirt with Ran. Before Ran can defend herself, another man stops Ibara. She recognizes him as Satoru Maeda, the Japanese karate champion who inspired Ran to start karate in the first place 6 years ago. Ran's minor fangirling is interrupted by the arrival of Maeda's fiancé, Akiko Sayama, a high school math teacher who responds coldly to Ran's admiration. Hideko mentions her surprise that Ran and Conan's group are different from expected. Ran explains they came in Agaza's stead, and that Kogoro is a detective, which shocks all present. Afterwards, the group disperses, but Conan feels the gaze of someone watching him intently, though he can't pinpoint the source. In the hotel room, Conan explains the terms of the mystery tour, which Kogoro is determined he can solve. He leaves to investigate, but Conan ponders at the extreme level of reaction from people involved in what should be simply a game puzzle. Ran also leaves the hotel room, letting Conan stand on the outside balcony and ponder what Agaza meant when he said the other prize was a computer program. That Conan wouldn't find very useful. Conan plans to call Agaza after dinner, but suddenly the room door opens behind Conan. It's the Night Baron himself, and before Conan can react, he throws Conan over the balcony. Luckily, Conan falls straight into the hotel pool. When he races back to the balcony, the Night Baron is gone, but Conan can't see any sort of clue toward the group sponsor's identity from an action like that. Conan is also concerned that the program prize might be the culprit, but Agaza can only remember that the program is one of secrecy and maybe a virus. Before Conan can ask more, Ran interrupts the phone call and asks how Conan got soaked. Conan lies that he slipped and fell so that Ran won't insist they leave until he can find the Night Baron's identity. Later at dinner, Ran and Conan find Kogoro, already sitting with Maeda and Akiko. Ran warns Akiko about Ibara, who is watching them with a perverted grin. Over dinner, Akiko reveals that she loves both Yusaku and the Night Baron, even cutting her hair to match the Baron's. Hideko walks by in a sexy dress and mentions that Akiko isn't the only one to know about the Night Baron. Ran and Akiko get angry that Kogoro and Maeda watch her go, while Conan notices that Ibara completely ignores Hideko. Conan also notices Kaneshiro alone at a table, and asks if Kaneshiro is after the computer virus, and how he knows so much about it. Kaneshiro answers that anyone familiar with computers knows about a perfectly destructive, elusive virus, also named Night Baron. Kaneshiro seems to associate the Night Baron with his son, who died 4 years ago. Shizu's arrival prevents any more questions, but after Conan leaves, Kaneshiro tells Shizu they must be careful because of Conan's suspicions. On his way back, Conan overhears Kono, on the phone, say that Ibara is a particular hacker. However, Conan can't learn anything else. Back at the tables, Conan realizes Ibara is gone. A waitress asks Conan to return the tie Ibara had tied around his forehead while drinking. Before Conan can do more than take the tie, Ran reprimands Conan for wandering off and drags him back to their room. Surprisingly, Kogoro isn't in their room, but Maeda and Akiko are down the hall. Akiko refuses to let Maeda in for staring at the waitress at dinner. He decides to wait in the top floor lounge until she calms down, and invites Ran to come along. Conan follows along, and gets between Ran and Maeda when he tries to flirt a little. Ran asks how Maeda and Akiko met. Maeda was friends with Akiko's older brother, who died 3 years ago. Downstairs in the hotel bar, Hideko attempts to convince Kogoro to share who the Night Baron's identity is, first by flirting, and then by slipping something to spike his drink. Kogoro doesn't notice. After a while, Maeda decides to head back to Akiko, and comments that Conan is like Ran's little bodyguard. Conan asks if Maeda knows what a virus is, but Maeda only thinks it relates to having a cold rather than computers. Conan ponders why a virus that seems able to steal money from banks and large companies, among other things, would be promised by the sponsor to gather these participants. As he does, outside the hotel, someone dressed as Night Baron falls from somewhere high up in the hotel. The unlucky victim is impaled on a bronze statue in the dining courtyard. Conan and Ran hear about the death of someone in a mask and go to look. Conan slips through the police barrier, only to be stopped by Inspector Yokomizo, who was recently transferred from Saitama to Shizuoka. While Yokomizo explains this to Ran, Conan sneaks the mask off to reveal Ebara. Ran recognizes him and explains the tour to Yokomizo, while Conan discovers Ebara only has one glove on, and his costume's tie tied backwards. Yokomizo assumes Ebara was the sponsor, but wonders whether the death is suicide or accident, and asks where Kogoro is. Hideko tells them he's still in the bar, but stays to look at the body. Conan realizes that behind her sunglasses, she is crying. In the bar, Ran wakes Kogoro up, and they all go to Ebara's room, 2101. The anti-theft lock is in place from the inside, and only when an officer arrives with a handsaw to cut it, are they able to enter the room. Ebara's clothes from early, and even his room key is on the floor just inside. The sliding door to the balcony is open, and a glove is stuck in the base of the bars. Kogoro assumes Ebara died trying to scare the occupants of the room below, but Conan points out that on the 21st floor, Ebara would probably have used rope, and needed his room key to get back in. Kogoro smacks Conan in annoyance, causing Conan's fountain pen to fall to the ground below, and leaves with Yokomizo to examine the body. On the ground, Conan tries unsuccessfully to find his pen around the statue. The other tour participants gather around to learn what happened. Konishiro calls it a poor story for the Night Baron to die, and it ends the game. Conan gives him a suspicious look, and abruptly calls attention to the backwards necktie. Kogoro thinks it could be a habit, but Conan produces Ebara's other necktie, which is tied normally. The belt is also backwards, leading Kogoro and Yokomizo to conclude that Ebara was murdered by one of the rest of the group. They start the process to question the others for their alibis. Ran and Conan provide Maeda's alibi. Hideko reminds Kogoro she was with him, but Conan points out Kogoro was drunk. Konishiro and Shizo claim they were in the restaurant together, but with the chaos of the strange death, no one may remember them. Konus claims he was reading emails and tells them to check the hotel's internet access logs, but he doesn't have a live person's alibi. Akiko was watching a movie on TV, where there was a bomb on a skyscraper, until Maeda returned, and so has no alibi either. Meanwhile, in the room with Ebara's body, someone attacks the police officer on guard. After questioning, Akiko returns with Ran and Conan to their floor and complains that Kogoro and Yokomizo probably suspect her. While Conan ponders the overall lack of solid alibis and the unknown intent of the killer, Akiko tells Ran that she called the front desk for a wake-up call, but didn't think it was important enough to mention. Ran says Akiko should be in the clear just as the elevator door opens to reveal the Night Baron, bloody mask and all, standing just outside. After an initial reaction of shock, Ran immediately attacks Night Baron with a powerful karate kick, but somehow, the Night Baron dodges and runs away. Conan tries to get her to chase, but Ran and Akiko are both stunned into immobility until it's too late. They go to tell Kogoro what happened, and also learn that the costume was stolen from Ibara's body, but has now hat, mask, wig, and cape suddenly appeared in the pool. Conan wonders if this appearance was unplanned, while the police question everyone again and learn that everyone was staying in their room as instructed, so no one has an alibi. Even Maeda is unconfirmed, since they came straight back down without going to Akiko and Maeda's room, 1901. The rooms are searched, starting with theirs. Conan notes from the balcony that they are a bit below and to the right of Ibara's room. He notes the position, annoyed that he lost his high-quality fountain pen, while inside Yokomizo finds some sleeping pills belonging to Akiko, but nothing suspicious. In Kaneshiro and Shizu's room, 2001, Conan sees that Ibara's room was directly above, but it's difficult to make notes with all the wind rushing by. Kogoro is annoyed by Conan's presence, until Conan says he's studying Kogoro's detective skills. Kaneshiro mentions that Kono has reasons to want the virus, after having tampered with computers at his own bank. However, in his own room, 2002, Kono says Kaneshiro hates the Night Baron because his son died as a result of a virus. Kono's room was closest to Ibara's, but impossible to reach from Ibara's balcony. Kono also says that Hideko was Ibara's wife, which she reluctantly confirms in her room 2102, but that she divorced him after she discovered he was a computer hacker. She also mentioned that Akiko's older brother used to have a small software company. Everyone has a motive. Conan notices pill just like Akiko's. Hideko gets flustered when he asks about them, and says they're cold pills. Conan doesn't get the chance to check her window, but she is directly above Kono, leaving Kaneshiro and Shizu's room as the only room reachable from Ibara's balcony. As he consults his sketch map, he passes two officers looking at the remains of the anti-theft lock and finds scotch tape stuck to the tip, a shocking revelation. In their hotel room, Ran sits miserably on the bed with the knowledge that only a certain person could have blocked her kick the way Night Baron did. Unsure what to do with the knowledge, she wishes for Shinichi to tell her what to do. A knock on the door interrupts her. She opens the door as far as the anti-theft lock allows to find Conan, who declares his experiment successful because she didn't close the lock herself. He notices her face and asks if she was crying, but she passes it off as yawning, and Conan runs off again. He ends up in the same elevator as the two policemen, and as he ponders the suspects, he overhears that the officer who was guarding Ibara's body and overpowered was himself a strong practitioner of karate. Like Ran earlier, Conan suddenly wonders if the identity of Night Baron may, in fact, be karate champion Satoru Maeda, but Ran confirms that Maeda has a perfect alibi because he was giving autographs to his fans. So, Conan dismisses him as a killer and still wonders who did it. Talking to one of the hotel maids, Conan learns that the wind that blows in this time of the year is a famous one named Himikaze, aka Princess Wind, and it blows in a very special direction. Thanks to that, he finally figures out who the killer is. Ibara's killer is Akiko Sayama. Her motive was to avenge the suicide of her beloved older brother from 3 years ago. Ibara had hacked into her brother's company's records and stolen the program into which he'd invested every penny of his company, driving him to leap from a building to his death. To get revenge, Akiko organized the contest and lured Ibara into participating by pretending to have the legendary Night Baron virus. Additionally, she disguised herself as the Night Baron for 2 reasons. She attacked Conan with the intention of scaring Kogoro back home before the murder occurred to prevent his involvement in the investigation. Akiko also planned to justify Ibara's fall in the costume by tricking the other participants and police into thinking that Ibara was the contest sponsor and died by mishap while trying to cause trouble as the Night Baron. Satoru Maeda, Akiko's boyfriend, realized Akiko was the murderer, stole the Night Baron disguise from the police, and appeared in front of Ran and Akiko in order to give Akiko an alibi and take blame for her if the police discovered her trick. After dinner, Akiko called Ebara up to her room, implying that she would give him the Night Baron virus. Once he arrived, she drugged him to make him fall asleep, went to his room to plant the glove Kogoro found stuck to the balcony and create a room locked from the inside, and then put the rest of the Night Baron outfit on him, minus the unnecessary wig, before she threw him off the building. While landing on the statue was a fluke, having Ebara's body land in the area beneath his room's balcony was her goal. In order to conceal the fact that Ebara was in her room, she dropped his body out the window closest to his balcony, which happened to be sheltered from the princess wind that was blowing outside. This way, it seems like Ebara locked himself in his room, changed into the costume, and attempted to descend into the room below, occupied by Kaneshiro and Shizo, in order to cause more mischief, only to slip and fall to his death. However, Akiko's plan backfired. She failed to factor in the force of the princess wind that was blowing at the time of the murder, and continues to blow similarly all the time. Conan, as sleeping Kogoro, had the police drop several rolled futons from each suspect's room, each futon carrying weights to give them approximately the same weight as a person, and a sheet tied around them to act like Night Baron's cape, as well as the number of the room they were dropped from written on them for identification. Thanks to the force of the princess wind and the cape catching that wind, none of the futons landed beneath any of their respective balconies. In other words, if Ebara had fallen from his own balcony, the wind would have blown him to the right of the statue rather than on top of it. The only way to make Ebara's body land beneath his own balcony, in spite of the wind, was, as demonstrated by Conan and the police, to drop his body in an area of the hotel that would shield it from the wind, an area that is only accessible from a room below the 20th floor of the hotel. With the suspect list in mind, Ebara could only have fallen from room 1901, Akiko and Maeda's room. The Night Baron that appeared before Akiko, Ran, and Conan, however, was Satoru Maeda, who had no connection to the murder. After noticing a few anomalies about Ebara's body, he began to suspect Akiko and went through her luggage. He found the Night Baron wig in her suitcase. She had originally intended to include it with the rest of the costume she placed on Ebara, but she didn't need it, since Ebara's hair already looked the part. With proof in hand, he realized his fiancée's plans and made his own plan to divert attention away from her so she wouldn't go to jail. The first part was to not reveal the alibi that he did have, as to not create inconsistencies within any possible confession he may have to make. The second was to steal the costume and appear in front of Akiko and someone else, creating a phony alibi for Akiko. Stealing the costume proves there's only one costume, and only one costume would lead people to believe there's only one Night Baron, which couldn't be Akiko. After Akiko is accused, Maeda insists that he's the real killer, but Ran had tracked down his alibi to clear his name, and Conan via Kogoro present the phone call Akiko made to the front desk from her room, to prove she was at the scene of the crime when Ebara was thrown to his death. Maeda is also convicted, but for interfering with the investigation and the offenses that came with it, and is likely to get a lighter sentence due to the circumstances of his crimes and his own good behavior beforehand. Before being taken away, Akiko bitterly tells Maeda to forget about her since she's not a good woman. He promises to wait for Akiko's release, however, and despite trying to put on a mask of stoicism, she can't help crying as she's taken away. Haburago Komiyo, Ebara's ex-wife, entered the contest because she wanted to make an antivirus for the Night Baron virus. Incidentally, Ebara sold Akiko's brother's program to Komiyo, but she realized that it was a stolen program and stopped its sale. Kaneshiro wanted the virus in order to punish the creator for ruining his high school girl dating simulator 4 years ago. Shiro Kono's reason for wanting the virus is unconfirmed, but Komiyo suggested earlier that he had nefarious purposes. Kaneshiro seemed to concur with Komiyo's analysis, though his agreement came after Kono began sweating bullets over Komiyo's assertion. The missing corpse murder case. One afternoon, the detective boys receive a request from Hiroki about a missing cat, Akira. The gang accepts after Hiroki promises a worthy reward. They go around searching for the cat. After a while, they hear Akira's distinct meow from inside an unknown house. Akira shows herself and she's covered in blood. Fortunately, not her own blood, as she is uninjured. Conan immediately jumps into the fence to look where the blood came from. The detective boys followed. They discovered a bloody body with its head in the bathtub. The detective boys immediately run out while screaming, and Conan goes to the nearest phone box to call the police. The inspector arrives, and Conan assures him that no one has left the house since he called, and the corpse is still inside. They ring the doorbell and go straight to the bathroom, only to find that the bathroom is sparkly clean, and the body is missing. The person living inside, Kazuyoshi Tanaka, insists that there is no such body, and the police is getting pranked by the kids. He lets the police search inside the house, and if anything comes up, they should tell his younger brother, Tomofumi Tanaka, which should arrive shortly. Tomofumi arrives. Conan noticed that a leaf fell out from his pants. Tomofumi helps them get inside Kazuyoshi's room, since he can be scary. Fortunately, he was asleep when they enter. They just had to search quietly. Kazuyoshi is asleep while sitting in front of the TV. After searching the whole house, the body is nowhere to be found. Before going out of the house, they were having a little discussion that maybe the kids did lie. Conan said that he only watched through the front, and maybe the body was carried out the back through the large tree. Tomofumi abruptly answers the phone near them, with a loud voice. The inspector gave them the benefit of the doubt and tested the theory. They found out that it's impossible while carrying a body. The inspector leaves and says that they lied. The night falls and Conan is still outside the house. Can't stop his curiosity, he hops inside the fence once again and goes straight to the back, only to find out the 3 other detective boys are also there, up in the tree. They see Kazuyoshi still asleep while sitting in front of the TV, while the curtains are still open. Genta asks the others if he doesn't get tired sleeping like that. After that comment from Genta, something sparked inside of Conan, and maybe he was looking at it the wrong way the entire time. Conan thinks he has figured out the trick used by the killer to hide the body. Conan goes inside and tells the rest to wait outside for his signal to call the police. Conan stealthily goes inside and finds that Tomofumi is still awake, and he put down a cell phone near the telephone. With this, Conan has almost cracked the mystery. Conan goes upstairs to check on Kazuyoshi. After feeling his pulse, he confirms it. He also notes that there's an answering machine and a VCR in Kazuyoshi's room. Tomofumi runs into the room and Conan manages to hide, only for his cover to be blown when Genta speaks loudly through their transmitter. Nowhere to run, Conan reveals the truth, and that Kazuyoshi is the missing corpse that they were looking for. This is how the trick worked. Seeing that we had discovered your brother's body, you washed all the blood off him in the bathroom, put a bathrobe on him, sat him in a chair upstairs, then came down to talk to the police, who had come in search of the body. You had boldly disguised yourself as the brother you murdered. The 2 of you have always looked similar. Relatives would know the difference, but everybody else would be fooled by such a simple disguise. Then, while the police searched the house, you jumped from the 2nd floor window to the tree, and then over the wall. The outer side of the wall acts as an embankment, but there was just enough room for a single person to walk. You then returned to the front door as yourself and acted like you had no idea what had happened. Meanwhile, the detective boys called the police and explains it to the inspector that the younger brother is the murderer and the older brother is the missing corpse. The inspector says he's alive. He even turned the TV off when his younger brother told him to. He even yelled at you when you broke that jar. Conan continues, you tried to make it look like your brother was really alive. You used the VCR and the answering machine and your cell phone to do it. That shouting was something you had recorded to the answering machine before the police showed up. You played it back on the answering machine by using your cell phone's quick dial feature at just the right time. Of course, you turned off the ringers on all the phones in advance to make it sound like your brother was yelling from upstairs. As proof of this, you picked up the phone, which didn't ring. You probably saw the light on the phone blink when the phone call came. If you hadn't picked it up, the answering machine would have kicked in and would have heard him yelling again. Conan demonstrates it again. The TV turned off because you set the VCR's timer in advance and did a little bit of acting of your own. Isn't that right? Meanwhile, the inspector still doesn't believe them, until he heard Tomofumi confess through their transmitter into the phone. Genta saves the day with his quick thinking. Tomofumi starts attacking Conan and chases him around the house. He reveals the reason for why he killed his brother. He loves his brother, but he was being taken advantage of. The older brother stayed at the house and refused to work. The older brother found some documents about illegal traded stocks and which he blackmailed Tomofumi with. The older brother became a shell of who he once was, a talented rising new novelist. But he kept demanding for more money, so I killed the parasite myself. Conan successfully subdued him by kicking a kettle into his head with the powered shoes, and the police arrived shortly after. The inspector's faith in the detective boys was restored once more, and the case that started as a missing cat investigation came to an end. The next day, Hiroki comes back again with the same request. Akira the cat is missing once again. They figured it would lead to another case, and took it again. Later they found out that Akira is just a mischievous cat, and no cases followed thereafter.